Hello and welcome to Select 10. In this video, we will list the top 10 best new Hollywood movies streaming on Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, and HBOMAX. This list contains some of the best action, comedy, thriller, and currently popular films, so don't miss any of them. Also do leave a comment on how many of the films you've seen from this list and which one is your favorite. Now let's start the video. Number 10. Manifest West. It is a thriller drama film directed by Joe Deitch and Louis Gibson. The plot centers on a couple named Dave and Alice and their two children, Mary and Riley, as they relocate from the town to a remote village in an attempt to find peace, make a living off the farm, and avoid the stresses of modern life. While assisting Alice with her psychological issues, the family attempts to somehow get their lives back to normal and sets out to develop a sense of belonging with their neighborhood. However, as old issues return and threaten to take their kids away, their new existence gradually and inevitably turns into mayhem, forcing Dave to take extraordinary measures in order to save his family. The audience gets the impression that the story is a teenage survival thriller, since it is told through Riley, a 10-year-old girl, which is not totally accurate. Despite its flawed storyline and disconnected subplots, the movie is still watchable and provides sufficient thrills. And the film has a 5.8 rating on IMDb and a 60% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 9. A Wounded Fawn. It is a horror mystery movie directed by Travis Stevens. The story revolves around the strange Bruce, a lonely man and a notorious serial killer with a bad past, who gathers women and murders them at the command of the whispers in his head. However, when Bruce invites his new victim Meredith to his isolated cabin with the goal of murdering her, you would think it is a standard horror slasher movie, but it is not. It has enough unique elements to keep you interested. Meredith, on the other side, is a museum director who is anticipating an intimate weekend with Bruce, but of course, once Meredith arrives at the cabin, odd things start to happen, and she gradually learns that there is something drastically wrong with Bruce. The plot is basic, but when it taps on supernatural themes, things get really intense, and the dreamscape of horror it creates will leave you stunned. And the movie has a 5.6 rating on IMDb and a 71% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 8. Amsterdam. It is a 2022 period comedy thriller film directed by David O. Russell. The story is set in the early 1930s and centers on three friends, a doctor, an attorney, and a nurse, who crossed paths in Amsterdam in the 19th century and signed a promise to look out for one another, no matter what happens. While the primary plot begins with the friends being wrongfully charged with murder and being required to look into the crime's details. After that, the story shifts to the large conspiracy, which sends the three friends on a mission to defend their identities while dealing with threats and conflict. The film is adapted from the business plot, a 1933 governmental conspiracy in the United States involving three colleagues embroiled in the unexplained death of a former U.S. general. While the plot tries to express quite several topics, what's really to be admired in the film is its ensemble cast, where every scene centered around them and their journeys are enjoyable to watch. And the movie has a 6.1 rating on IMDb and a 62% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 7. Hunt. It is a 2022 spy action film directed by Lee Young-jae. The storyline centers on the leaders of the KCIA's domestic and foreign units, Park Pyong-ho and Kim Young-do, who are charged with finding Donglam, a North Korean traitor who is secretly working within their organization. However, their work becomes considerably more challenging when the mole starts disclosing confidential data that might compromise global defense, while it also becomes more difficult for the two groups tasked with investigating each other to work together. While Pyong-ho and Young-do eventually start to learn the truth and investigate an unbelievable plot to kill the South Korean leader, an intense situation develops in which they risk being suspected of being the moles themselves. Because of their slight rivalry, which naturally makes them suspicious of one another, their analysis sometimes takes unexpected turns. Despite its dark story, Hunt succeeds as a thrilling action flick packed with suspense, intrigue, and action. And if you enjoy espionage thriller films, you won't be disappointed by this one. And the movie has a 6.8 rating on IMDb and a 78% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 6. Who Killed Santa? A Murderville murder mystery. It is a comedy murder mystery special directed by Laura Murphy. The plot follows holiday-hating Detective Terry as he is ordered to crack a Santa homicide case with the assistance of two brilliant recruits, Jason and Maya, who must create their own path through the investigation. The problem is that Jason Bateman and Maya Rudolph don't have clearance for the script, so they are unaware of what is going to happen to them. Together with Terry Seattle, they must use intelligence to crack the case, and it is up to both of them to identify the murderer. If you've watched the Murderville TV show, this one will seem familiar to you, and for those who haven't, it's an hour-long holiday special. If you're looking for some genuine fun and humor, this hilarious and honestly entertaining comedy will give you a much-needed belly laugh. And the film has a 6.5 rating on IMDb and an 85% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 5. Violent Night. It is a 2022 action comedy film directed by Tommy Wirkola. The film opens with a group of ruthless thugs breaking into a mansion belonging to a privileged family on Christmas Eve and holding anyone inside prisoner for money. The main storyline revolves around a mysterious Santa Claus who is traveling to deliver presents to the people on his good list as part of his yearly ritual. But shortly after landing at a young girl's house and witnessing an innocent family being tortured, he initially tried to flee and carry on with his evening of delivering presents. But when the attackers ambushed him and ruined his perfectly planned evening, he vowed to prove that he is not actually the typical Santa Claus and began killing them one by one. Overall, it's a violent and edgier depiction of the happy holiday where a badass Santa kills evil people. The film is a delightful holiday treat, packed with adrenaline, humor, and thrills, so if you like the action in John Wick, Nobody, and Bullet Train, you must add this to your watch list. And the film has a 7 rating on IMDb and an 88% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 4. The Big Four. It is a 2022 action comedy film directed by Timo Giganto. The plot centers on a team of assassins, Topin, Alpha, Django, and Peeler, who operate for an elderly gang member named Petrus. In the meantime, Petrus wishes to quit and leave the path of crime behind because Dina, his daughter, is beginning her career as a law enforcement officer. But he is killed by an unknown person, and Dina does not know who killed her father or why he was murdered, except that when she found him dead, there was a masked man standing. However, after receiving a tip to a deserted tropical island and the possibility of apprehending the murderers, she chooses to team up with the gangsters her father had groomed, the retired killers ready to return to the action to settle old scores. There is no denying that the combat in this movie is almost insane, and the icing on the cake is that this movie is directed by the director of The Night Comes for Us, so you can imagine the fight scenes in this movie. It's a brutal, hilarious, and entertaining roller coaster ride that keeps you on the edge of your seat. And the movie has a 6.1 rating on IMDb and an 89% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 3. The Banshees of Inisherin. It is a comedy drama film directed by Martin McDonagh. The film takes place on an isolated island and centers on two long-term friends, Padraic and Colm, whose relationship comes to a halt when Colm declares he no longer wants to be friends with Padraic and gives no explanation for his decision. Later, with the help of his sister Shaoban and the troubled young indigenous Dominic, a shocked Padraic attempts to rebuild the friendship and refuses to accept no for an answer. However, Padraic's persistent efforts do nothing but harden his longtime friend's determination, and when Colm issues a dangerous warning, things quickly get out of hand and have unexpected consequences. The plot is a dark comedy drama that skillfully moves viewers between strongly clashing emotions. Simply put, it is a magnificent piece of art filled with superb cinematography and extremely brilliant performances. It is a must-see on this list. And the movie has an 8 rating on IMDb and a 76% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 2. Glass Onion, a knife-out mystery. It is a sequel to the 2019 blockbuster murder mystery film, Knives Out. The story centers on Benoit Blanc, who shows up at a luxurious private estate on a Greek island, but his presence is only the beginning of several mysteries. Upon his arrival, Blanc is greeted by a bunch of pals who are attending their annual gathering at the courtesy of businessman Miles Braun. The list of attendees includes influencer Duke Cody and his minion partner, Whiskey, as well as Miles' old colleague Andy Brand, governor of Connecticut Claire DeBella, and a lot more people. While each individual has their own unique mysteries, lies, and intentions, the mystery starts after one of the guests dies. Blanc is appointed to the investigation, and each individual becomes a suspect. Just like first one, this one too has a wonderfully gripping murder investigation, fantastic social criticism, and funny dialogue, but I liked first one more. And the movie has an 8 rating on IMDb and a 93% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 1. Top Gun: Maverick. It is a sequel to the 1986 action drama film Top Gun. The movie takes place 30 years after the events of the previous film and follows the story of Maverick, a flight instructor who avoids being grounded by a promotion. But when he comes back to the country to prepare a group of Top Gun graduate students for an operation, Maverick runs into Lieutenant Bradley Bradshaw, the son of a friend who passed away. While preparing the trainees for a daring mission that no surviving pilot has ever experienced, Maverick must address the horrors of his life and face a bleak future, which forces him to overcome his darkest nightmares. The picture pulls off a very rare feat that only a select few movies have been able to do. It accomplishes the remarkable achievement of outperforming the original movie. The film contains all the elements that a perfect film should have, and if you're one of the few who hasn't seen the first one yet, you should watch it first before watching this one. The movie has an 8.4 rating on IMDb and a 99% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. That's it for today. Thank you for watching this video. And do subscribe our channel to see more videos related to movies and series suggestions.